What's up, everybody? It is Saturday, the 1st of August. That's right. We are in the 8th month of the year. And like every weekend, we do a live Saturday, Sunday, 2 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Today, we are going to be doing a professional edit, and I'm going to give notes to an amateur's first draft. I just used the word amateur because keywords. I had a submitted, and you know that I started doing this, where I'm trying to get more submitted works. I have a nice queue filled, and ultimately what I do is I go over either an outline, or a first draft, or prose, or a scene, or whatever you send to me, and we look through it, and I develop it as if I am actually a developmental editor for that piece of work. Fun fact, I am actually a developmental editor. If you don't know, I like to really get into it, and today we're going to be looking at 3,067 words. Also, is it 3,000? I believe it is. Yeah, correct. But I'm also going to be using my 3 phases of analysis. This is basically what I do whenever I have a job. I start with phase 1. If it passes phase 1 without many notes, then I go to phase 2, which is how is the narrative actually being told. There's some overlap with this, but at the same time, let's fix that. At the same time, it isn't always overlap. And then finally, the polish check. Now, the reason I do this is because if you can't pass the first phase, phase 2 and 3, there's no point to it. Why do we got to polish what needs to be rewritten, reworked, right? So really, believe it or not, the way I look at it is, if it is a first draft, usually we're not going to get to phase 3, but sometimes we get to phase 2. But today, this is a first draft, basically. All right, let's talk about what we got. Why, hey, everybody. Let's say hello. Angel Faye. Flowers. Boom, boom, boom. Hey, what's up, Cindy? Always a pleasure to see you, my friend. From the north, it's SB. I'm here. I'm dancing. Difficult poll. Yeah, I decided to go crazy today with the poll and see where we can go. What's up, Chris? Always a pleasure, my friend. My daughter is making a huge mess in the house. Well, this is why I believe the house should just be a mess if you have kids, because then the kids can't mess. The only thing you can do is start going, wait, maybe I should clean this up. Hey, what's up, Afghani? A big shout out to Afghani for helping me with the title. Like I always say, he's good with that stuff, and I took his advice. Did a little edit here and there, and boom, we got a strong title this week. So thank you again, Afghani. You know I'm always going to shout out love and support. All right, so today we are going to focus on this project called Project Wings. This is chapter 1. It is a first draft, as far as I know. My parents sent us to the basement. No walls, just cement. You sure you're not Italian or Sicilian? All right. I will add to the fact that we do have a poll today, and like always, at the end of the hour, we will talk about it. Which of these is hardest to execute? Respecting reader intelligence. This means to not over-explain things in your book. It means that you are writing strong, vague, but informative. Delivering on the promises. It means what you bring up in the beginning of the book, usually first act, always first half of the narrative, and by the second half you are starting to pay off those promises and dividends, though you can also pay off a promise within a chapter. I don't know if you know that. Anyway, creating emotional truth. This just means that characters are behaving based on their positions, based on their beliefs and motivations and the true things. And of course, building empathy for bad flaws. You know how they say, like, this character doesn't necessarily... Like Walter White. We have empathy for Walter White. Otherwise, there wouldn't be 5 seasons. So we'll talk about that at the end of the hour. With that, we are going to go into it. If you have any questions about what I am doing while I am doing it, please ask. I'm happy to explain what I'm looking at and why I'm looking at it that way. These lives are for you to learn the process and not just for me to go, look at me. Okay? Hey, nearly finished your book, Afghani. That's awesome. Let's give an applause for that. I love hearing the support. No problemo. Yeah. I can also help you with titles. I appreciate that, Angel Faye. You're the best assist around. I'm on a moon, but All right, where are we? That was my choice. That was my choice. Mine is creating emotional truth. Oh yeah, you need a little creating emotional truth without making women whiny or so strong. Well, emotional truth, by the way, isn't necessarily uh, them having the emotion, if that makes sense. It's not that they are crying or that somebody is angry. It's that they are behaving naturally through who they are. So their choices on the page make a direct sense. I think emotional truth is toughest for me. Curious to hear what others feel about that. Yeah, definitely. That's a great conversation starter. I think everyone should be talking about something like that because that is important. The first one, because they need to know what I know. Hopefully, I'm learning to hold back. You know, holding back actually is a strong suit. But remember, vague but informative. Too little information is bad, but too much information is also bad. All right, the first thing we're going to do is we're going to look at something is happening, but nothing is happening. Now, if you don't know what this is, the simple variation of it is that ultimately is a scene or chapter filled with the majority of exposition and description with very little emotional experience and choices from the characters. This includes your movements and maintaining a connected POV, meaning a character is experiencing these things and it's not just random. Now, does this mean you can't have description and exposition blocks? No, but the goal is to always make sure that there's more character than there is exposition. So let's get into it. Your rewrite the grade should have titles like "He had this to say about X." What a shock! Like, ah! Those are fun. Can't wait. Let's get into it. Let's get into it. Now we're gonna color code this. So for everyone, you can do any colors you want, but I usually do exposition, description, character. All right. So exposition, I usually do red. Why? Because I think exposition is the worst. All right. You need exposition, but there's character exposition and then there's narrative exposition. Narrative exposition is where it's sort of an aside or the narrative stops and then you're told this information. Usually it's backstory dumpage, like this house was from 1907, right? Description, I do, oh, I don't do green. I do yellow. Yellow descriptions aren't too bad, but when they are absent a POV, that's when we start getting into issues. And then the character, I do green because when we blow it up, what I'm going to do is I do this and I can see the green a little bit better than all the other colors. All right, let's go into it. We do line by line. This is very simple. And again, if you have questions, feel free to ask. Delivering on promises for me, it's hard to know if the big moments and lines will hit like they did for the reader. Fun fact, Danny, remember, promises can be small too. You know, if a character says, I always wish I could jump high enough. I wish I could always jump high enough, but I'm so small I can't reach the walls. And then at some point in the story they jump high enough and reach the wall. That's a promise. All right. It was the beginning of the day in Mystic. This is exposition. The reason it's exposition is simply just telling us information. Again, there is nothing wrong with exposition or description by itself. The goal is that you have more character than these items. The sun was... Oop, I got some wases in there already. These are passive sentences already, and they are indeed considered telling. But that's okay. Let's get into it. The sun was midway in the sky, but if people had looked up, they could have noticed a blue dragon flying in the sky. This is exposition. Why? Because the sun was midway in the sky. It is not a descriptor. It is telling us that the sun is midway. If it was... the sun took to the sky, shining off the horizon, blasting over the people looking up. That becomes description. All right. They could have noticed the blue. They could have. All right. So right now I'm thinking based on what these two sentences are, this feels like a third omniscient. All right. He descended into the forest so that no one would notice him. Maybe. This is exposition. Also, he is abstract because we don't know who the main protagonist is. It's usually best to start off with a name if you're going to do that. Or if the first time we meet a POV, we have a name if it is deep into the passage, or I call them movements. Also, I'm looking for my arrow. There it is. All right, that's for me later. That's for me later. Okay. The weather was nice for September, not cold, but not hot. This is also telling, so this is exposition. Perfect for... Now, you would think this is showing, but remember, showing is... What? He's not... He's not descended into the forest? That doesn't make sense. He's not... Oh, he's not the MC. All right, that's fair. But we don't know who he is because there is no connection to a character. So in this situation, it's abstract. We can't place anything on it. It is just it would probably be better if it was a man descended, because if it is supposed to be distant and not directly connected to anything that we care about as a reader, a man becomes the most distant. But if it's he, the note would be, who is this? If it's not the MC, then it's more or less, why is it he? Is it important? If it's not important, then you have to make it more distant. But again, this is all exposition anyway, so my note would be deeper than this. It would go a little bit deeper. Would they have our months in a fantasy? They could. You can absolutely. I mean, Lord of the Rings has August. But again, Lord of the Rings does take place in Middle-earth. Angel Fate, did you hear my... I gave an explanation for it. Did you hear... just let me know that you got my explanation. The weather was nice for September. Not cold, but not hot. Perfect for flying, being outside. Perfect for flying and being outside. But today was not the day, because as the dragon shifted into a 5'5" man with short blue hair dressed in... Okay. This is exposition, and the reason is because it is telling us that these things are happening as the dragon shifted into. You could almost argue that as the dragon shifted could be description, but it's not being described, and we are just being told that it just turns into a 5-foot man. Oh, excellent. All right, good. All right, the car. Let me. Okay. The car was waiting for... I'll explain what these arrows are later. We're not up to that part. That's just so I remember to mention it. The car was waiting... The car was waiting for him at the end of the road. This is more exposition. A car would change it from telling most likely, but was is what makes it passive, and telling. After igniting it, he drove it toward the barn. I guess turning it on. All right. I would still argue that. He drove it toward the bar owned by his king and queen. All right. So far, right now, if we pull this back, we can see that it is all exposition. There has been little to no description and zero, and by the little, no, I mean there's no description and no character. So as a developmental editor, right off the note, I'd be saying we need to get more, we have to connect to something, a POV, a character, whether it's the MC or not. It could just be a nobody. There are plenty of stories, and you see it in movies and television, where a quote-unquote nobody, a character who dies. Look at the White Walkers in the beginning of Game of Thrones. The prologue is following people we know die. They get spoiler alert. They get decapitated within the first chapter. You don't always have to be connected to the MC on page 1, obviously. But there should be a character's perspective. Why? Because we want to move through the emotional experiences and choices of our characters so we can experience the world. Again, you do not have to show with no telling, because I believe it's show, sometimes tell. You You need context, but there still needs there needs to be a little bit more character and a little bit more description in it. It's too much telling. It's a fantasy world, but if it is different than R, you need to set how the months pass. Like, do they have 2 moons? So the 2 moons take 45 days. Cindy, I agree, but I disagree, and the reason is because if it's not narratively important, you don't really need to put a lot of time into it. But if it is narratively important to the story itself, where the moons and the passings do affect the characters, absolutely 100%, you have to put time into that. But if it's just the fact that it's a descriptor that there are 2 moons, and maybe randomly a character says, "Oh, we have 6 more days before the next moon passing," and then someone go, "Oh, 45 days passed already." Like, you could just throw that in there. There's nothing wrong with that. But I don't think you need to spend too much time on it if it's not narratively important. What? Yeah, that's right. Someone dies in the Game of Thrones. All right, let's keep going a little bit. I'm not gonna do the whole 3,000 words, but let's see. Only a few customers were sitting inside the bar, but the atmosphere felt heavy. This is more exposition. The reason it's not description is because we are not experiencing the atmosphere feeling heavy, but we're being told through a filter word. Also, were was basically was. Only a few customers were so. Like, this isn't a free and direct discourse, by the way. So a few customers took over the bar, and then this is free and direct discourse. It is a character's position, not much for a Saturday, but they did have their place here. That's all character. Still, the deaths of the many led us here on Saturdays. You could say led them here on Saturdays. This becomes a little bit of exposition, but that's okay. Their shoulders hung over? Oh, hung. Or hunched over their drinks, nursing the truth of the day away. Dragons did not care. And so this is character. This is description, and then this is character because it is a position. So the idea is that instead of just stating that things are happening, you can move through stuff a little bit more. Hey, how's it going? Where is this world? It has dragons and cars. Sorry, I've just joined. Welcome. It is it's Australia. No notes. Angel says it's the world we currently live in on Earth, but with dragons. I don't know. This feels like Australia, because in Australia, everything wants to kill you. All right, let's do it. Like something will happen at any moment. Sitting inside the bar, but the atmosphere filling. The reason this becomes exposition is because it is not connected to a character, and we haven't yet established a character to connect it to, especially if he was here for just 1 second and then sort of vanished. The car was waiting for him at the right. So after igniting, drove the bar by his king. But like, if this isn't the MC you said, and this was just a random guy, but if this guy is connected to these things, it's hard to say that this is really him, because this is just, we have to move the story through a character. That's why. Oriel at the bar, clean. What? Oh, was at the bar cleaning the. I did buff. That was weird. It was buffing over here too. Are we back? Keeps buffing. Weird. All right, we back? I think we're back. All right, I think we're back. The MC is coming. That's what she said. All right. Buffing. I think the buffing stopped. All right. The stream lags. Sometimes it sure does. I'm directly connected to the internet, but is it raining? It might be raining. Back. Ooh, it's buffing. Oh, I thought that was just me. It is you, Afghani. We're gonna blame you. Oh, good. I thought it was just me. What's with the buffing? Happens. All right. I think we're good again. Looks like it's good again. Okay. All right. Cool. So it's basically Today World with dragons. You can't go wrong with it. I think dragons should be in every part of the world. All right. Is it me, or does it feel like something would happen? She asked the man behind the counter. I'm assuming we have now switched to her? All right, that's, I'm assuming. Is it me, or does it feel like something would happen? She asked the man behind the counter. All right. He looked over her head and smoiked. He felt someone driving towards the bar. Are they not in the bar again? He looked over her head and smirked. This is internal, I'm assuming, so I guess he's bringing some news from the palace. I don't know if this is... I guess he's bringing some news from the palace. You know, we have those days once in a while, Liam. You know, we have those days once in a while. You could argue that this is a position, but you are right. Today, it feels that something will happen. He said while whipping the last glass. What we got here? Indeed. You found the MC. Who's the MC? The girl or the dude? Because we're on he looked. I guess he's bringing... I don't understand this, though. He looked over her head and smirked. He felt someone driving towards the bar. I guess he's bringing some news from the palace. I'm actually going to go to exposition for that. Yes, they are. Interesting. You can blame the buffing on me. That's funny. The girl. How long is this first? Whee! I'll do one more passage, and then we'll move on to the next thing. She nodded. And as she turned to face the door from the counter, a man entered and walked toward... It's telling us what is happening. All right. When he stopped there, he looked at her with an eyebrow lift, making the man behind the counter growl out. This is exposition. This is being told. This has to be third person. Is this supposed to be third person omniscient, Angel? That's the man's behind the bar's thoughts. This is? If this is the man behind the bar, then... Boop. That goes there. That goes there. Yeah, I figured it was omniscient. Hey, Cindy. All right. She nodded. She nodded. Uh, she nodded. And I guess this is all her. Eyes grew enormous. She can change, and looked at the man who was her boss, friend, and the. Okay. Well, this is. Anyway, did you just growl? You've never done that. This is actually. All right. Okay. We're gonna stop with phase one. We can see, even if we go back further, that the majority of this is just exposition. There's very little character, and there's only. I'd argue that this is descriptive because, well, the while is the thing that is a little off, but whipping the last glass, that would be showing. I will tell you what the arrows are shortly. They're just there currently for me to remember to point them out when we get to that particular objective. Fantastic. All right, let's move on. Let's move on. So my notes here would ultimately be you need to go in and add a little bit more description and a little bit more character. I would say also to remove as much exposition as possible. I would revert the majority of your sentences into active. That doesn't mean you can't have passive sentences, but too many passive sentences in a row just seems like we're being told something and we're just sort of like getting through it. It was the beginning of the day in Mystic. The sun was midway in the sky, but if people had looked up, they could have noticed, they could have, a blue dragon flying in the sky towards the village. He descended, by the way, into the forest so that no one would... So the way you find out if it's working or if it feels like somebody is just telling a story at a fire is you read it like that. You sort of like, it was the beginning of the day. You got to sort of break this. You have to break it. That's the idea of when you're editing your stuff or when you're looking for what's working, what's not working. You have to purposefully break it. Yeah, well, you've definitely established it's the man's behind. Nyek, nyek. That's funny. They are tiny YouTube screens. They are the tiny YouTube. The tiny YouTube. All right, let's get into the next stage. Yeah, so that I would say that this technically would not pass phase one. I'm more certain than not that if I kept going and I was doing the highlighting, it would definitely lead to phase one not being completed. And the reason is because we didn't even get past this. There is far too much exposition. But we're going to continue on as if it was fine, and you'll see certain things. The beginning, middle, and end, we could actually check that real quick. It was the beginning. They get to a bar, so that's the beginning. She nodded. Well, there it was, the first thing of everything. Kiddo, blah, blah, blah. When she was far enough, once Emerald Eyes turned a fury red on his dragon, Shaidan took over his human form side. It just seems... don't you ever look at her that way, Miles, or I'll punish you. Nice. The man bowed to him. I'm sorry, Your Highness. Claimed his dragon and regained control over his body. Tell me, what is my family planning against me? All right, well, this would be the middle. So, this is the opening. Now we're in the middle. Well, there was a first time. Don't you ever... Because now we have a conflict. They are planning to kill you, sire. And then, what is it going here? She asked. No, my queen. I'm just looking for the resolution. Here is the order for table 6, she said as she handed it to Lizzie. All right. The other note I'm going to give before, right off the bat, far too many characters. There are far too many character names in this opening scene. If we could spread them out throughout the entire chapter, you could probably get away with it. It's just... If you're going to have more than 3 or 4 characters, I would say more than 3 characters, the way you have to do it is allow them to breathe on the page and have a presence. And it can't just be, hey, Thomas, what are you doing? Allie, says, well, Thomas, Jim over here is standing by us. Oh, here's Chrissy. She's delivering the drinks. If the names are just being presented to state that people are in the room, they're not creating presence. So you can earn more characters on the page when you create presence. Meaning, for, this is just choreographing. Well, here, okay. It's just choreographing, and it's 3 people in a row. All right, comforter mate. Here's a 4th name. He sighed. I don't know who that's necessarily connected to, unless that's connected to him. Welcome back, my dear. You are as, and now here's another name. So that's 1, 2, 3, 4. We have a husband. I don't know who that is. Here's 6 names. That's a lot of names. For one passage. I'm just saying, you create presences by allowing them to have a moment on the page, or be. It's not really about saying their names. It's more or less about letting. Anyway, let me find the solution here. Too many character names and location names is the #1 reason I put books down and struggle with the fantasy genre. Yeah, I mean, don't get me wrong. Bran, the first chapter of Game of Thrones, you have Robb, you have Jon, you have Eddard, you have Bran. Bran then mentions the other kid, like Theon, and then they mention the the sisters and the mother. But it's over the course of the chapter, so it does earn itself. That's fine, but they are still considered names, if you know what I mean. They are technically characters. They are names. It'd be as if I was like, Thomas entered Bayon Tavern, sitting next to Chris and Aaliyah. Davy, how you doing? Thomas said, wrapping his arm around Melissa. Well, Thomas. The kingdom of Crit is a mess with the dragons. That's why my dragon, Dessan, is loved by all. All right, like this still, it doesn't matter if it's a tavern name. This is a tavern name. This is a kingdom of Crit, and then Dessan is the. This is still like a lot. Still a lot. Oh no, I know it's a first draft, but that's still a note I would have to get. It is draft 1. Later on, it will be better. Well, that's the point. Like, if somebody sends me a first draft, I still have to notate the information. I have to present that. Hey, the cleanup would be getting rid of a lot of these names. That's one long arm. It is one long arm. All right, you don't have to worry about it, Miles said with a smile. You could always get rid of with. Thank you. I had better be going. The dialogue, we're not up to it. We're not up to it necessarily, but the dialogue is very, it isn't character driven. That's why I was kind of giving a lot of the dialogue. This would technically be read if it was because it's exposition. Thank you. I had better be going. Right? So, like, the way you figure out if dialogue is working or not, you just kind of read it very monotone. Thank you. I had better be going. I have stuff to do. When there is any news, I'll let you know. Miles nodded to them and left the place. Right? Like, it just becomes, do you know him well? Who, Miles? I've known him all me life. By the way, you don't have to worry about Miles, he said with a smile. Oh, yes, I wanted to apologize for my behavior earlier. I should have the years. I'm going to say this is the end. So it does have a beginning, a middle, and end, so that's nice. There you go. This chapter does have as the beginning for the scene, the middle, and the end. There you go. Fantastic. It has a beginning, a middle, and end. But, yeah, the secret to good dialogue is to read it out loud and just read it very like meh. And if it just sounds weak, the robot dance, robot dance, robot dance in disguise. Yeah. Where's my... Oh, here we go. Don't you ever look at her that way, Miles, or I'll push you. I'm sorry, Your Highness. I'll apologize to her before leaving the bar. Brought you news from the palace. And that's, by the way, I read my own dialogue like that, especially in a 0 first and second draft. You have to read it to see if it's just information, but how do you make something like this? You know, yes. Your Highness said, bowing his head. Oh my apologies. You know, all my apologies to her. I shall make it known as your request. Right? Like they start creating positions now. So I shall make it known as your request. So the character's purposefully doing it to honor the Highness. Okay? Whereas this is, I'll apologize to her before leaving the bar. Now it doesn't really become character driven. It's just, we need to know this. Right? So yes, Your Highness. And then a behavior kind of connects to it. Yes, Your Highness, he said, bowing his head. So that means he said it at the same time. So the man bowed to him like this, and then he's like, I'm sorry, Your Highness, right? You have to create a connection to both behavior and dialogue to kind of bring it to life. To life. All right, what we got here? Probably because they introduced themselves too quickly. I put books down that are like that. Yeah, you want to slow down the introductions for sure. In other words, A.I. Thomas should be reading it. A.I. Thomas should be reading. A.I. Tommaso. All right. So it does have a beginning, a middle, and end, but let's get to phase 2. Now, to be fair, I don't believe I would go to phase 2. I would just give heavy notes on how to create more character. Basically what I was just doing on the screen, I would give examples of that. I wouldn't even mention the wases yet. None of this is important. These are not important because right now it's missing the thing that would probably help just justify stuff. And that's the thing. When phase 2 is working, or more importantly, when phase 1 is working, usually phase 2 kind of like makes sense. But right now, because phase 1 isn't working and it's just information, it doesn't necessarily work itself out. But let's get into it. Macro narrative. Well, I'm not going to do a summary. Let's trace the pace. All right, let's do pace. I'm only going to do the first two. Passages. All right, here it goes. It was the beginning of the day in Mystic. That's only one. All right. The sun was midway in the sky, but if people had looked up, they could have noticed a blue dragon flying in the skies towards the village. That's tree. He descended into the forest so that no one would notice him. All right, yeah, okay. The weather was nice for September. Not cold, but not too hot. Perfect for flying and being outside. Perfect for flying and being outside. But today was not the day because as the dragon shifted into a 5-foot man with short hair, dressed in casual clothes. That's 7. All right. The car was waiting for him at the end of the road. I would argue it's 2. Still fast, though. After igniting it, he drove it toward the bar owned by his king and queen. That's 3. All right, so I'm not even going to do the second one. The pacing is definitely off. But so what are we looking for? Well, in sentences and movements, and to be clear, a movement is the passage. So if it's a dialogue block, that's considered a movement. If it's a narrative block, it's considered a movement. They're also passages. I call them movements because they are supposed to focus on or have intention towards one element. You can explore that element as much as you want. When it comes to scenes and chapters, you just worry about word count because it's just the fast way to do it. But when it comes to sentences and movements, you're actually looking for points of information. Why? Because Pace is the speed at which information is presented to the reader. It is not the word count. It is simply just information. Is fast, medium, or slow pace bad? No, you need fast, medium. When you get the thick, that's when you have to start worrying. If a movement is thick, that you have to start worrying. And the reason is it's only because it's too much information, right? But if you have fast, then slow, then a medium, then fast, and then a slow, like you start creating a rhythm for the reader. You're basically a fast is sort of like, let's get right to it. Then slow is like, let's sit in it. Medium is it's important, but not too important. Like you're creating the presentation for the reader. And it's the same thing with movements. If a huge passage or movement is just filled with tons of information, there's a chance that it's actually multiple movements. And that's what the arrows are for, by the way. I'll show you in a second, okay? What we got here? The file with phase 1, 2, and 3. Did you share them? So they are available on PayHip. If you are a YouTube member, Patreon, or Substack, you could just download them. They're available for download through those subscriptions. If not, you could just go right to PayHip. PayHip is right in the description below. You could also go to my website, and it's right there as well. But yes, these are available. All right, so let's talk about pacing and why I think I don't really have to go to the next passage. Let's just get into it. And by the way, the only reason I actually even charge for the templates anymore is because, like I said in an earlier live, I used to give everything away for free, and then I found a lot of my free pieces for sale. People started selling my templates and my helpful documents, so I had a meltdown. All right, where are we? Oh, pace. So this is a fast sentence. So we got fast, then we got medium, and then we got fast, 7. This is thick. This is a thick one. This one gets a red. We're going to give this one a red. All right, and then we got fast and then medium. All right, so now we add that up together to look at the passage altogether. We have 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 17, 18, 19, 20. There are 20 points of information in this. That is considered a thick movement, but believe it or not, these are actually their own separate movements. Because they are focused on their own things. We're actually going to talk about movements in a second, but I just want to show how this is its own beat. This is now a fast beat. This earns its place. This is considered what I would call a medium pace beat. This is fast, and this is fast. All right. The pacing, if you look at it, the pacing is an issue right in the first passage. If I really look at the other ones, we could probably still argue that as well. Only a few customers were sitting inside the bar, but the atmosphere felt hot. That's 2. Like something will happen at any moment is 1. Ariella was at the bar cleaning the counter. That would be 2. So that's 2, 3, 4, 5. Is that medium pace? Anyway, all right. So you're looking for pace because you want to control the information that goes to your reader. Remember, presentation is important. Breaking these up into movements. Are we up to movements? Let me see. Oh, we're still on show, sometimes tell. We don't actually have to do this one, and the reason is it didn't pass phase 1. There is no showing. So it is mostly telling because it is mostly exposition. We're not seeing characters move through their emotional experiences. We're not seeing the environment being present, meaning that the environment itself isn't necessarily a character, and we're not seeing lived-in world mechanics. The only thing that would justify this one is there are dragons in the real world and cars. That is world building, but it isn't necessarily showing us the lived-in world mechanics. We are just being told there are dragons and there are cars. As far as sentence movement goes, we could do this. We could do this. Let's get rid of the pace. Anyway, when it comes to pacing, my note on this would always be the same, but again, this did not pass the first phase. So I wouldn't even mention pacing at this point. And the reason is because if you can't get past the first phase, you don't have to worry about pacing because you're going to be rewriting it anyway. Did you already do a Great Gatsby rewrite for its opening? It's about, yes, I did actually. There is a Great Gatsby rewrite the greats. Yeah, the writing in that's obviously the author's good. But I did do a rewrite the first for it. So you treat every chapter like this the whole way through, or do you just get a? No, I do it the whole way. Do you make a separate file to do this with? Yeah, if I have to. But honestly, I won't do this until it's a draft that's going to be handed to my alpha or beta readers. I do it more for beta readers than I do for alpha readers, only because my alpha readers have been working with me for so long. I don't really have to worry about that. But when I give it to beta readers, so basically my second draft, before I send it to beta readers, I will do this. As far as going super in, basically you don't have to do it as much as you think, because if phase 1 is working, a lot of phase 2, here I'll show you. If phase 1 is working and it's supposed to be something is happening through characters, then show sometimes tell is there. It's there. It's working, right? And then the only thing you should be looking for is, am I representing the world's mechanics? Meaning, if people walk into a tavern and touch a bell that doesn't work and goes, for the fallen 9, and everyone goes, for the fallen 9, that creates a lived-in mechanic. I will look for, I'll just read through it. Does it have environmental presence? So the first chapter of Death of a King, what is Devious doing? He's rubbing the tree, and he's rubbing a ward that's on it, and he's recognizing trolls, and he leans back, and his foot moves in the soil, and he's listening to the animals and the birds, and he knows that danger isn't there, because, right? So the whole thing is present. When he gets onto his horse, he's running through the forest, and the trees, the branches are whipping past him. So I know that the environment is present and so I don't have to do anything really. The highlighting, that is probably the only thing that is, I always do the highlighting, because I want to make sure that phase 1 is showing me more character than description and exposition. As far as the pace goes with the 1s and the 2s and the 3s, I don't necessarily have to do that as much as you think if phase 1 is working, right? But if I see chunky pieces, like a huge passage, I'll do it, because I might be missing something. There might be too much information that I could break up into smaller movements. But let's see. Right now, we're gonna do plot, character, world, just as an exercise. The whole series, which is 6 books, follows 6 women who survived the magical lightning that changed their lives forever. That's a great premise. It's a really good premise. Hello, everyone. Hey, Em, what's up? Always a pleasure, my friend. Hi, Em. I couldn't do this to my writing. It's a bit mechanical. I just go with, well, that's why you hire a developmental editor, because then we do the crazy stuff. Your angel. All right, so let's see. It was the beginning of the day in Mystic. So this is world building. Yeah, world building. World building. The sun was midday, but if people looked up, they could have noticed Blue Dragons is world building. All right. In the sky towards the villages. Not world building. All right. It was the beginning of the day. This is plot. Okay. The sun was but if people, meaning they hadn't already, blue dragons flying in the sky towards the village is plot. There is no character though, because we already found that there was nothing. He descended into the forest that had no. Okay, that's plot. Plot. The weather was nice for September. This is world building. Not cold, but not. That's the world. Not cold, but hot. This is plot. Okay. The car was waiting for him. This is plot. This is technically plot and world building, because there's a car. After igniting it, he drove. This is plot. All right, so there you go. So you can basically look at your work, and clearly there is no character here. There's very little what I would call world building, which is fine. You don't need a lot of world building, but there is a lot of plot. So, you know, as far as getting the plot out, it's doing its job. Well, how do we know that? Because we could see it on the screen. All right. Is it getting the plot out in a productive way? Well, because phase 1 wasn't passed, the answer is no. But it does exist. That's why I usually don't go into phase 2 or even 3 if it doesn't pass phase 1. Because whether plot is there or not, it's going to be rewritten anyway. There's very little note I could give. Because ultimately I'd be like, well, we're just telling people stuff here. Why don't we like, you know. Anyway. Logical narrative movement. I am not going to do that for this piece only because it did not pass phase 1. But we will talk about new movements. Let's go into new movements. So the reason I think I'm going to actually bring this back just so we can see the physicality of it. This should actually be its own movement. This should be its own movement. This should be its own movement. And the reason is because the focus and the intent is on something very specifically different. I think I did one here too. If this is internal and not connected to the guy upstairs. So he looked over her head and smirked. He felt someone driving towards the bar. Unless this is the bartender, that's fine. I know, you know, we have these days once in a while, Leah, but this would be a new movement for the character itself. That sucks about someone trying to profit off of your work. And yeah, it was pretty hard to, I had to take a day. It was terrible. It's what happened to Angela Ackerman and Becky Puglis for their thesauruses. A professor was giving them out with their permission, and then someone started, oh, that's terrible. Yeah, I give a lot of, I'm happy to just help people. I give a lot of my time, right? But it's when it gets abused and I'm just like, it just hurts too much. And it wasn't like one person, by the way. It was multiple people selling multiple different things in different places. And I just was like, whatever. I would have started it at the bar. That would have been a fine place. But again, my job as a developmental editor is to do a couple of things. If we're just dealing with prose, that means I didn't get to work on the outline with you. And at the end of the day, I have to basically make summaries of these. But what I'm doing is, if it's not passing phase 1, I don't want the summary. And if you notice, phase 2 is the summary. So if phase 1 is working, I write a summary of the scene and the chapters. Then as a developmental editor, I am seeing the beats of the narrative playing out. And if it is making sense, then I give notes just like Afghani did, where I would say, hey, maybe we should start at the bar. It would probably be more productive. No, I really want to start outside with dragons flying. All right, well, then we have to go a little deeper into it, and you got to allow character to be there. Anyway, let's talk about movements. So I broke that huge movement up, and as you can see visually, right? Visually, it is now looking like something. And the presentation is pulling the reader through it. They have to sit here for a second, then this, and then this, right? What is the focus intent? It was the beginning of the day, and Mystic, the sun was midway in the sun, but if people looked up, they saw blue dragons. So that's the focus intent. I'm assuming the day and the sky and Mystic. He descended is a new movement because it is a new focus and intent. This character, who I don't know is this character, but I'm assuming it is. This, because we don't have a name, it's just a him, he, or, you know, it's just like saying blah, you know, the blush. Well, actually, the blush would probably, because that's world building. He descended into the forest so that no one would notice him, right? It is doing a very different thing than this. This now has intent and movement on. The weather was nice for September, not cold, but not hot. Perfect for flying and being outside, but today was not the day because as the dragon shifted into... This has a focus and intent. The car was waiting for him at the end of the road is a focus and intent. This is a new focus and intent. After igniting it, he drove off. Because if we take away this, and we just do he. He drove it toward the bar. The car was waiting for him at the end of the road. This is a focus that the car is doing something, and then this is he's doing something directly after it. He's taking action with it. This is a new movement. We're inside. Then Ariel was at the bar cleaning the counter. Is it me, or I guess this is her, so we could connect this to her. Is it me, or does it feel like she asked the man behind the counter? This saves your word count, but if you really need it to be man behind the counter, you know, every writer has the right to do whatever they want. I'll take it into consideration. Because it gets right into the movement is basically why it's a good choice. If you go right into the movement of emotion and discussion, it's a little bit more interesting. And if we're writing a first draft, it's supposed to look like this. If I'm, yes, yes, yes. This is a first draft. It should look like this. That's what happens. On a slightly positive note, I guess it's a backhanded compliment that they see enough value in your work to steal it. Yes. Yes. Yeah. Yes. It's very nice of them. I've shared your PP with someone before, printed a copy of it for them, but definitely not to make. Well, that's different. You know, like if anyone buys my books and just gives them to other people, like I have no issue with that. But if like, you know, someone bought say 100 of my books and then sold my books for $40 or $30 on a different site, I'd be like, come on. First of all, the book isn't that much. And yes, it's my urban fan romantasy. I did some splurging today in all directions flowers, though I put it down to a dodgy donor. Is not. Oh, he's not a bartender. He's just. He's like a bar. He's just somebody behind the bar. Got it. Just the outline. Yeah, that's fine. That's fine. Share away, my friend. Share away. I'm all for sharing. Share all you want. But the moment I see, they were asking $10 for a treatment template. I'm like, $10 for the treatment template. Come on. Anyway. Oh, all right. So movements. As you can see, even though this isn't technically. Oh, he's the owner. All right. So the fix is saying owner. She asked the owner behind the bar. That would probably be the stronger. Because man is, this is abstract. Unless she doesn't know who he is. But again, it is omniscient. So you kind of get away with that. Ooh, I love to hear that, my friend. Nicely done, Cindy. All right. So again, let me just finish up movements real quick. So as you can see, the movement is a lot easier for the readers to get through the piece. I wouldn't recommend this, though, in my notes because it didn't pass phase 1. But if this made it to phase 2, absolutely. Right? Because we're tracking the... Well, actually, it has to get to phase 3. Because now we're dealing with format and we're just dealing with structure and stuff like that. Like dialogue. This is when I'm starting to worry about real dialogue. If it's vague and informative, the filter words. I was prepping myself for the filter words and the passive writing, noticed... were, felt. But if I got through this chapter and it didn't pass phase 1, I wouldn't even mention those things. Why? Because it would have to be rewritten. That would cost me too much to print a copy. I just have to buy it. Let's see. Yeah. What's the other things? Oh. Yeah, like dialogue. I mentioned the dialogue earlier, but again, I wouldn't give notes on it because it didn't pass phase 1. But the dialogue does need work. My advice would be to think about what characters want, their positions, who they are internally. I mean, you know, well, like for example, well, there is always a first in everything, kiddo. Go check if someone needs an order or a refill, please. Like it's not doing anything. It's just words, you know? And what I mean is when people talk, what is the choice they're making and why are they making the choice? You know, like he ordered softly, she nodded. This would be its own thing. If this is the owner, this has to be its own movement because it's him doing something, and then she gets her movement. She nodded. I would probably get rid of nodded and looked. At the man, with I'd get rid of. So I'd get rid of with, looked, and nodded. You, if you're gonna keep nodded, you just say nodded at the man. You don't even. Smirking. Yeah, you know, or whatever. I would probably make it more character driven. Maybe. You know, Leah nodded. I don't even think you need man. You just say Leah nodded. You could say giving him a smirk and a wink. You know what I'm saying? I guess you could say as she left to serve. Well, as she left, you don't really have to say to serve customers. It's inferred. You know, Aaliyah nodded, giving him a smirk and a wink as she left. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, sometimes you don't need all those words. You don't need all those words. All right. But again, I wouldn't. None of this is important right now because it hasn't passed. My book is all written on with notes. That actually makes me happy. I love it. I love it. I love it. It should be like a textbook, right? You can read the whole chapter after the stream and let me know. Well, let you know what if it passes phase. I'm assuming it doesn't, but I could do a phase 1 run through. Awesome, Cindy, just as it should be. Absolutely. So one of the colors is description, but I assume you wouldn't be doing much description on your first draft. Not necessarily true. Not necessarily true. You should be, as your writing, as your craft improves, you're going to naturally be adding description, character exposition, and character or emotional experiences and choices. You're just going to be thinking in that way. So newer writers don't necessarily do that. So often first drafts, zero drafts, and second drafts are mostly the exposition, rarely with character. And my job is to clean that up and be like, we got to kind of even this out. That's all that is. Kind of like people buying action figures and not ever taking them out of the packages and playing with them. At that point, buy 2 and save 1. Exactly. Have fun with the daughter. There's a comedy franchise returning to TV or something. I was wondering if I could write a script or concept and pitch it to. You wouldn't have to write it. Well, you could write a spec script. They seem to be stalling for. You would write a spec script, which you go back and watch the oldest series, and you take a storyline and basically rewrite that episode in your voice, and that's how you get a strong spec script. And then you have to find the producer or somebody or an agent. I don't know how England or anywhere over in Great Britain works, but I actually don't know where. I think you're in the UK. But yeah, there are a lot of stuff being redone. Not sure why, considering how many stories and novels are out there, but not much comedy. Would like to see more. I definitely would love to see more comedy, right? Yeah, we need comedy. Comedy. What was I looking at? We were doing something. Oh, dialogue. All right. Don't you ever look at her that way, Miles, or I'll punish you. Like characters don't necessarily say what they mean all the time. We don't really know what's going on here. But also, as far as movement goes, she smirked, she served. When she was far enough, his once emerald green eyes turned a fury red as his dragon took over. What? But he didn't want the humans to notice that. Oh, that's. I'm assuming this. I don't know who this is. If this is the owner, and Miles is being said, so we know who he is. But in reality, what should have happened is she nodded at if this is Miles, it should have with a smile. This is the thing with writing. you do not have to use he or she to be sneaky. If a character knows somebody, they're going to, in their narrative perspective, see them as the person they are. They're not going to just be like the guy behind the counter, because that would mean the POV is no longer theirs, right? It's just somebody. And you have to also remember that if it's omniscient, which it is, the omniscient narrator already knows everybody. But anyway, this I would assume goes here, which means that we need an identifier because there is no identifier. The man, I'm sorry, Your Highness. So I'm assuming this is the Highness. Said the Highness, right? Like you would need at least that, but whatever. It's neither here nor there. The man bowed to him. It wouldn't be man, it would be Miles. Miles bowed to him, okay? Or, you know, he bowed to him. The point is, in narrative, if a POV is tight to somebody and they know the character, they would know the name. It wouldn't be the man or a man, because that is really distant. If it is omniscient, they know everybody. It's called the In-Betweeners. Yes. The cast were teenagers, but now mid-30s. Writers said they weren't sure how to bring them all back. I think I have the perfect setup for it. Do it. Would third omniscient be considered old-fashioned? Right how you want. It's third person limited. I believe actually first person is becoming the most common right now. What is the most popular? I think it's first person POV style in books today. I think it's first person if I remember. Yeah, first person and deep third person is second. Modern readers prefer first person I me because then it feels like they are a part of it. However, a third person limited is still or more important. Third person. Really. I love the In-Betweeners. Good stuff. All right. I think we did good. But my notes wouldn't get this far. I'm very quick with my notes when it comes to that. If phase 1 isn't working, I focus on that and I try to get the writer adjusting their writing so they can clean up their first draft a little bit. But yeah, me too, sir. Afghani, I love a good third person limited. Yeah, it never gets old. Does it, Flowers? Claimed his dragon and gained control over it. This is very abstract, by the way. Dragon is being used as internal energy or rage or like the power within. So this isn't explained enough for it to be used abstractly. Just want to put that out there. Tell me, what is my family planning against me? I guess that's the Highness. So this would actually be Drethion said. And now when he says Your Highness, now you know that Drethion is the Highness. Alright? They are planning to kill you and to rule. This is just straightforward plot and exposition. They are trying to conquer, this is exposition, among other kingdoms. Miles told him. We don't need Miles told him because we know that Miles is talking to him. All right. Now we are in his brain. He could feel. This is filter word. I would recommend getting rid of that. Shaitan pacing inside his head with anger. Lizzie came out of the kitchen as she wiped her hands with a towel. You don't have to say was wiping, was is passive. So these are things I would look at closer to a tighter draft, most likely a second or third. However, I have seen first drafts that were strong enough to get to phase 3. It's not super common, and it shouldn't be. And by the way, if your first drafts look like this is not bad. You know what I'm saying? This is the process. Nobody in their right mind writes perfect drafts the first time they put words on the page. But it is good to think about these things. And as you develop as a writer, stuff like this, like, I came to report to the king about his family and their plans. which are not good, as they are conspiring to kill him to rule the dragon kingdoms, right? Like, as you develop as a writer and you get stronger with your craft and just in general, writers, authors in general, this stuff comes out cleaner. You lead to it. You create moments. You know, like, let's say there's a conspiracy, right? My king. Coup. Is it coup? Is it coup? Coup as in takeover. Coup. Against me, right? So this is like how you started out. You just like, my king, there's been talk of a coup against me. Right? You know what I'm saying? Like, now you start adding character. My king, centered, head humbled, a bow. Now we create character. There's talk of a coup. So what are we doing? So now we have character. I know Chris is a terrible fantasy name. Yeah. Bob. Okay. My king, Bob entered, his head humbled in a bow. There's been talk of a coup. So this means Bob is afraid of the king, and that means we've already started describing who the king is before we even got into the details of the coup. I didn't just have him say, there's been talk of a coup, a report that people are planning to kill you and your family. They're conspiring to kill him to rule the Dragon King. Instead of getting right there, we start with character and we start building up to it. Against me, fools. Or you could even do this, he said, right? Against me, he said under his breath, stepping to the window, the crowd forming. Right, whatever. I'm just doing generic dialogue. But Edmond, there we go. Edmond. Okay. Though Edmond's like a powerful character, you know what I'm saying? But my point is, before we even get into the plot per se, we are seeding the plot. There's been talk of a coup. We are creating character through Edmond. He is nervous. He is afraid. Why? To talk to the king. We are now building up the king. So basically, in one movement, we've described Edmond emotionally, his emotional truth. So remember, creating emotional truth. That's what emotional truth looks like. And then we are creating emotional truth and description for the king before we even get to the king. And then the king, against me, he said under his breath. So he's not even nervous or scared. Against me? Like, he's almost confused, too. Like, against me. Stepping to the window, the crowd formed at the lower bridge of his castle. We can actually... lowered... at a lowered bridge. The lowered bridge. Castle. Fools. All of them. So we are learning more about the character before we get into it. You know what I'm saying? Like, that, when I talk about strong dialogue, I'm talking about sometimes the secret is to just kind of break it up and create a moment. Allow characters to sort of have a back and forth to it. You know, this is really... What is going on here? She asked as she approached the counter. My dragon Raylan is worried about... This is just... It's just information. They're not necessarily... No one is making choices here. Right? And that's a quick way to also check... Without doing like all the phases, you could just read the line and be like, is it an emotional choice? Is it an emotional experience or choice? It was the beginning of the day and mystic. Is that an emotional experience or choice? Neither. That sentence needs work. The sun was midway in the sun, but if people had looked up, they would have noticed a blue dragon flying in the ground. There is no emotional experience or choice, meaning the character is not experiencing this. It's just being told as it's physically unfolding. And The character's not making a choice. He descended into the forest so that no one would notice him is a choice. All right, there we go. We got something right. But the weather was nice for September. So when it comes to dialogue, you're looking for the same thing. We have those days once in a while, Leia. Is that an emotional experience? Not necessarily, because physically he said, well, whipping the glass, right? And then is it a choice? What is the choice that they're making? We have those days once in a while, but you are right. Today it feels that's something. So you're looking for, like, how do I create choice and experience with this, right? Maybe. Oh, wait. I don't want to do it like this. So this creates behavior first, and it's active. He whipped he wiped. Is that wipe? He wiped the last glass? Whipped is like throwing it, right? You throw it across the bar, so maybe it is. He whipped the last glass toward her. We have those days once in a while. But you're right. All right, and then today it feels that something. I feel it too. You know what I'm saying? Like, they're having a moment. They're just having a moment. Yeah. Oh, it's white. Oh, white. Okay, so he wiped the last glass. Okay. Putting the washcloth deep inside it. All right. We have those days once in a while. He tossed the cloth over his shoulder and set the cup on the stack of others. But you're right. You're always right. So this is a choice. So the character's making a choice. It's a character behavior. It is indicating something. He adjusted the stack, lining it beside the others, right? There's intention there through their behavior. So that creates character. But if they're just saying the thing, we're not really. But all I did was just take this dialogue and break it up. And now they're sort of having a conversation with it. Something's coming. I just know it. You're not talking out of school. I feel it too. I'm just using slang because it's New York. I mean, it's the world. He watched them on Friday nights. Oh, the hubs. I write is their right mind. Oh, in their I'm back. Doo doo. Edmond. That was very Blackadder. Could you go into a little more detail regarding creating emotional truth? I can. Give me a second. I will absolutely do it. But wouldn't that be normal and omniscience? Nay, sir. Nay. Wait. Afghani, please let me know what you're talking about when it comes to wouldn't that be normal and omniscient? Just so I don't understand the connection because I missed your comments. Did the final scene of Blackadder make you cry every day? I watched the last episode once. Yes. Talking about not experiencing things through. Oh, so in omniscient. Okay, that's a great question. So Afghani is asking, would that be normal and omniscient when it comes to experiencing things through character? Yes. You still need to allow the scenes to be moved through a character's emotional experiences and choices, meaning either we are directly experiencing their emotional experience or they are making choices. So this is still all omniscient. This is third person omniscient. He wiped the last glass, getting the washcloth I think I spelled that right. Deep inside it. These are choices. He's making a choice. We're seeing how he cleans it. That's technically character choice. Okay? You know, we have those days once in a while. He tossed the cloth over his shoulder and set the cup on the other stacks. This again becomes a character choice because how he could have tossed the thing onto the bar. He could have threw it to the thing. He could put it in the washcloth, right? Then something, and then he adjusted the stack, lining it beside the others. That's also still choice. So yes, so in Omniscient, you still need characters' emotional experiences and choices. You just do. And Ro, I'm going to answer your question in a second. Wipe the yeah, I fix. Yeah, perfect ending though. Oh, we're talking about the black ending. It was a writer in the night. My bad. All good, all good. All right, so back to Ro. Ro is asking me to do a little bit more creating emotional truth. All right. So let's say, I can basically, let's get rid of this. Let's go all the way down. All right. All right. Emotional truth, everybody. So let's say you start off with a very generic first draft. He entered the room. 6 people sat at a table. All playing poker. All right. Again, we're just setting it up. We're just doing a generic opening. We're going to start with very simple stuff, and then we're going to move into creating... Oh, wait, where is it? We're going to create emotional truth, okay? So we start with just choreographing. He entered the room. 6 people sat at the table, all playing poker. He approached the table. Can I play? Right? It's just very straightforward, right? Just can I play? They all looked up, right? We'll just do... Okay. One even growled. Go on. Sit yourself down, buddy. Okay. A beardless man said. Why is it? Why? Because we don't know the person's name. All right. He, let's call him Dave, sat down and tossed money on the table. What's the buy-in? Your life. Table left. The table left. Ignore Jim. It's a grand. Okay. Ignore Jim. All right, so how do we create emotional behavior and how do we maintain truth to that? Well, who is Dave? So now I know I have to go back. I created a name for him. Let's just do this. We are going to fix that up. All right, Dave entered the room. Who is Dave? What's his positions? Well, I'm going to say, and by the way, you're a writer. You can literally make it anything you want. I'm going to say Dave is a professional poker player. Dave has confidence, but he also knows that because he's in a dystopian environment, it's dangerous here. So he's going to downplay for survival reasons, okay? So that means, how does Dave enter the room, okay? Was pushed over. All right? So now we know this is passive, right? So what you do is you go... I'm trying to create a visual. I don't really want to do Dave first, but Dave pushed open the doors, holding. Okay, so now this is assessment. So if his position is survival, he's a master poker player, so he's going to play the room, not just the card game. He has to start off and create behavior that is connected to his emotional truth. So Dave pushed open the doors, holding at its entrance and letting, this is a choice, the people stare at him. Okay, pushed open the doors, holding at the emotion. This is all choice. So it's either emotional experience or choice. It can be both, but this is choice. This creates that emotional truth, which is behavior, which I base it solely on my positions. We could even start free indirect discourse and go into 6 people in total. All right. 6 people in total. Few hundred a hand. This is a good note. Okay. Now we could get rid of Sat all playing poker. We could actually do 6 people in total. A few hundred a hand, 2, maybe 3 hit players. This is a good poker night waiting to be stolen. So basically what I just did was, before I'll head to bed for tonight, is the novel sounds interesting? Will you read it? The novel that you sent, the premise sounds interesting. I would suggest reworking. Well, obviously you said it's a first draft. The premise is very interesting. Keep it up. There's nothing wrong with the premise. People who have dragon powers or are dragons themselves and can transform and stuff. That's interesting. So yeah, keep it going. Keep it going. Fun stuff. Fun stuff. The invisible stuff is what I was just looking at for today. But as a concept, yeah, that's sexy. Could you demonstrate building empathy for bad flaws? I'm assuming these are character flaws. Yeah, I will absolutely happily do that. Just give me a second, good sir. So I just want to kind of conclude this a little bit. So originally it was Davey entered a room and what was it? Entered a room, or he entered whatever the room. 6 people played poker at a table. So that was the original line-ish. Glad to hear it. See you tomorrow. See you tomorrow, my friends. See you tomorrow. And thank you very much for the submission. So we went from this to this. And the way I got here was simply creating the positions in my head for the character and sticking to them. So everything that happens on this page for this scene would specifically go through those positions. Now, can I add new positions? Yes. Let's say this character, ignore him, Jim, ignore Jim. He hates everyone. All right. He hates everyone. This character now might create a new position. Also, you haven't read the most interesting part. Ooh, I'll have to get to it, my friend. I'll have to get to it. This might create a new position, one that I, as a writer, have to create for the character. Does Dave lower his walls or his intentions if there is someone at the table he likes? The position could be never let a friend go broke, or never let a potential friend, or never swindle good people. That's the position. Never swindle good people. So maybe throughout the scene, Dave actually lets this character, right? Dave lets this character actually win hands. Dave lets this character leave with money in his pocket, but he overplays and beats everyone else. That creates a position which then creates the emotional truth that drives the behavior. But again, this whole opening became a character-driven beat. So even if we did phase 1, Dave pushed open the doors. This is technically exposition. Holding at its entrance and letting the people stare at him. This becomes character. So now we have a green. Pushed open the doors. 6 people in total sat at the table. A few hundred a hand, 2 maybe, 3 ship players. This is a position. he is free indirect discourse, and he's analyzing internally without saying he thought, or without, I don't have to italicize, I don't have to do this. We are just moving the narration through free indirect discourse. That becomes character. This is the emotional experience. They are judging or making they're whatever, they're analyzing them. This is a good poker night waiting to be stolen. This is still free indirect discourse. It is a position. It is how they foresee their night unfolding. It also becomes character. David approached the table. Can I play? This is exposition. I didn't work that one. They all looked up. One even growled. This is exposition. Go on, sit yourself down, buddy, a beardless man said. This is actually character. All right. Dave sat down and tossed money on the table. That's a choice. Tossing the money on the table. What's the buy-in? That's exposition. Exposition. And then your life. That's technically character. The table laughed. That's also character because they are responding to it because they all know this is a joke. Okay? Ignore Jim. He hates everyone. Ignore Jim. He hates everyone. That one's actually character because we are defining things, and it's a grand as exposition. So there's an example of, well, look, there you go. Boop. Now, I don't have description in there. So if I was looking at the scene myself, I would actually start adding description. So the door pushed open. Dave pushed open the door. Swash. 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 Smoke. Stank the hole. So now this becomes the description. Boop. All right, and then 6 people. This is description and technically character, but we're just going to call it description. See now, do you see how now I'm building on the pros, and now they're looking they have a little bit more color in them. There is red, there's more green though, and then there's some yellow. Like that's really what I'm looking for that. I don't necessarily have to do this all the time when it gets to like the third drafts or the second drafts. But in the second draft going to the beta readers, I start looking at it, sure. And I want to see if I can start adding different color schemes because I'm adding description or I'm adding more character or I'm adding, right? You just don't want it to all be red. Anyway, what was the other question? We have a couple other questions. MS something. It's life, Jim. Not as we know it. Klingons on the starboard bow. Starboard bow! Sings. All right. Could you demonstrate building empathy for bad flaws? Yeah. All right, as far as writing this out, what would be a quick version of this? We have to first create some bad flaws, right? But it's not just, it's character flaws. Yeah, it's your character flaws are terrible, right? So let's say a character is and doesn't talk much and seems to be an outsider. People fear them, are afraid to bother. All right. So if we're dealing with this kind of archetype, we're already establishing positions that we know other people don't necessarily, well, we know he doesn't talk much and seems to be an outsider. People fear them, or fear him, we could say. Fear him and are afraid to bother him. So now that's going to affect how he is in a room. So let's do it. Argon. Table. Juice. Oop. Eating. Thick burger. Juice chip. Mouth over beard. This black beard. Shadows. They consume the corner of the cavern. All right. Now we create a new movement, right? Okay. He lowered. All right. He lowered the burger. All right. Let's just say he dropped. He dropped the burger onto the plate. Sat back. His head. His head reaching. Height of the waitress as she approached, as she stepped beside him. Okay, boop, 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 boop. We're gonna get there. Oh, hey, what's up, Sean? Hopping on for a second, outrunning errands. Hey, wifey, put my vote in for the poll. Have a wonderful day. We love you, buddy. He's not one of those weirdos who eat a hamburger with a knife and fork. No, he's not. He could be. Hey, Sean. Something. All right. So again, what we're trying to do here is I'm showing you how to show empathy for bad floors. His iris. Oh, how do you spell iris? Iris. Oh. Outlined his iris. Swam. Bloodshot eye. Okay. So right now we're basically establishing into base. You know, he is a feared person. He's scared. He's big, right? All good. And how's about you? But now we got to start including some empathy. Okay. Hey, Groud. We could even say hey, Groud from the side of his mouth, staring at her. Oh, a red outline. Ooh. His iris, and swam in a sea of bloodshot eyes. Turned. All right. Swallowing. Swallowing. Left half. Okay. He returned to his burger. We could just say his burger. Swallowing the last half. All right. You know where to find me, right? Whatever. Okay. All right. You know where to find me if you need anything. Okay, here comes the empathy. You ready? Back. Tripping over a chair. That's a man. Stood up. The waitress. flat on her face. Two drinks and broke across the floor. Watch where you're going, the guy said. A few broken shards. Taking over the mess. All right. So this beat becomes a moment of empathy. So he's just a loner. Argon sat at a table eating away at a thick hamburger, juice dripping down his mouth over his black and red beard. His head leaned half into shadows, and he consumed the corner of the tavern. He dropped the burger onto the plate and sat back, his head reaching the height of the waitress as she stepped beside him. "You need a refill on your drink?" He growled from the side of his mouth, staring at her. A red stain outlined his iris and swam in a sea of bloodshot eyes. He returned to his burger, swallowing the last half. "All right," she stepped back. "You know where to find me if you need anything." We could actually just say she tripped. She tripped over a chair. As she turned, a man standing. Her way. The waitress fell flat on her face. The two drinks in her hand broke across the floor. "Watch where you're going," the guy said, laughing at her as he left. As he stepped over her and left. So he's a douche. Okay, she knelt up and grabbed this is just the first row, a few broken shards. Few shards. All right, then we could just say a hand appeared, taking over the mess and sweeping the broken glass into his gloved hands. He did not break. Smile. Turn her way. Simply kept his task. Face plant. Anyway, as you can see, this beat becomes that moment of empathy. Now, if a reader is this, by the way, Argon could be a villain. Argon could be evil. Argon could be something. But this stuff like this creates empathy. When a character goes against their type because we, the reader, assume they are something, and then they do something kind. This is why, if you watch a movie or read a book, and the villain is like super nice to a dog or saves the cat from a tree, you're like, oh, okay, I kind of like this a guy or this a girl, right? So empathy is formed. Forming that empathy simply comes through moments like that. You have to break the character's outer interior and how we perceive them, and then ultimately show them doing something that's empathetic. I hope that helps, actually. All right, we got to the end a while ago, but let's talk about it. We got a poll. Which of these is the hardest to execute? And again, if you have any questions about what I did today, feel free to ask questions. All right, the poll is very simple, everybody. We got respecting reader intelligence. This is solely just writing enough information for it to be vague but informative, meaning it's not too much and not too little. You're allowing the reader to be a part of the interpretation and the experience. They are learning as much as you are exploring. We have delivering on promises. This is ultimately, if you bring something up, there is magic in the world. Magic shows up, but it can also be something as simple as a character going, I wish I could dunk the basketball. And then at some point in the story, they dunk the basketball. It doesn't have to be a high moment. It could be in Act 1. It could be literally at the end of the chapter. Point is, you deliver on the promise. You present the promise or an idea, and then it pays off. Creating emotional truth. Everything I just basically showed you. where you maintain character behavior through their dialogue and their physical behavior and their actions, their choices, and the way they experience the world. We see that as a 42. And then, of course, building empathy for bad flaws. This just means if characters aren't necessarily always nice, or characters are selfish, or characters are just doing things that we would consider poor flaws, or flaws in general, we, the reader, are like, I saw that moment. That's a good moment. So before we get into that, we still have a cut. We have 13 viewers, so there's a potential that to get the votes in. Uncertain on the poll. That's okay. Me too, sir. Me too. Me too. Which is the hardest to execute, though? Which one do you feel would be the most difficult? By the way, if you can do all four of these, which one is not the easiest for you to do, even though you can do it and you can execute it? I choose respecting reader's intelligence. I always worry that he won't get what I'm hinting at. Oh, yeah. That is a fear, and that does lead to heavy exposition, and it does lead to over-explaining things. So it is definitely, for sure, a thing to worry about. Before we get into that, I really want to just say quickly, if you don't know, How to Write a Narrative is still going on. A new episode will be up this Thursday, How to Write a Narrative. You can watch by joining the YouTube membership, or go to Patreon or Substack and joining those. The first 3 videos are available, so if you haven't watched them, you can enjoy them. They are a good chunk of information, and they help set up not only the narrative, but give you the tools to get involved. More importantly, if you didn't know, I have books available. That's right. I also got some physical books of this today. Woohoo! I got 5 books delivered to me today, so that's because I have to give some to the library, and some people purchased them that way. But I'm so excited that this book is selling and that people are sending me really nice messages about it. I'm really grateful and thankful for all the love and support over the years of doing this. So fantastic. If you didn't know, I also have this book, How to Outline. Basically, the first half is explaining narrative. The second half is for plotters, and it teaches you how to outline, specifically using the 27 plot point outline. If you're loving Death of a King, I would definitely love to hear it. Remember, you could always leave comments in the post themselves. Feel free to tell me what you're liking and not liking. Also, you can ask questions. I love those questions. More importantly, if you didn't know, you got to bloop that beard and bloop that like button. Every interaction helps the algorithm and builds on the channel's awareness. If you didn't know, I said it earlier, you can go to Make It Right Left here. There is a banner. If you scroll them down on the page, you'll see a thing that says you can get resources. There are 3 currently. I will be adding another one. This is August. I will be adding another one this August. So there'll be more. But again, if you are a member on YouTube, you pay for YouTube membership, you pay for Patreon, or you pay for Substack, email me if you do not have the files. I will happily send them to you for free. They are yours. You're already a part of the support. So much love to that. Other than that, let's get into it. I might over-explain just a little bit. It's okay in a first draft. It's definitely absolutely okay in a 0 draft. It's by the 3rd draft that this is what you should be worrying about. If you are still over-explaining in a 3rd draft, that becomes an issue. But that's why we rewrite, we edit, and we take notes. Cheers, Thomas. That helps greatly. Actions speak louder than words, for sure. Louder than louder than louder than words. Fantastic. I'm glad that helped him. Pretty sure I would choose emotional truth on the poll. Choose emotional truth, my friend. It's a good choice. There are no wrong choices. The 27 PP outline video was fabulous. Kept me out of trouble for the afternoon. That makes me happy. It is long, though. I know the 27 people. That is a long. You'll probably have to watch that in 3 viewings. Just for an afternoon. It's a nightmare where you are right, Lenny. It's a nightmare where you are. All right. Let's talk about the poll. The poll. All right, we got a couple things here. So 8. Ooh, in last place, we have building empathy for bad flaws. I wonder why this one is low, but I'm assuming it's because who cares about empathy? I probably wouldn't choose this one myself, but it is interesting to see stories where villains are just villains, and I'm okay with that. By the way, like Skeletor is supposed to be evil, fine, but I do like to see nuance in characters, whether they are quote unquote the villain or the antagonistic force. By the way, good people can be antagonists. I don't know if you know this. Because the protagonist drives a narrative, the antagonist pushes back on the desires, motivations, and wants of the protagonist. However, the antagonist force might be inadvertently disrupting the protagonist. Meaning, let's say there are two characters, they don't know each other, and one is the secondary POV, not necessarily the protagonist, but they're another POV, and both are, let's say, cops, and they both have honors and badges, awards, and they both work with the community. They're both excellent people, but one of them is trying to get a sergeant position, and there's only one spot left open, and they both take the test. They both get high scores, but the antagonist gets a point higher, and the antagonist actually takes people out to dinner, and he smooches, and he works the room, and he does what he has to do, and the protagonist finds out that this other guy or girl or this other cop is doing. The protagonist finds out the other cop is doing all this. Not that it makes them a bad person, but the protagonist realizes, I got to step up my game, and I got to start smoozing and boozing these people, and I got to start getting my name out there. I got to earn this sergeant. That's still technically antagonist. Anyway. All right. In second place. Oh, what do we got here? The years. 2050. 2050. What's that? I decided I don't have to explain my villain. Sometimes just having a jerk is okay with. Yeah, I agree with that 100%. Sometimes a villain is a villain. I am the villain, and it feels so good. Skeletor, until we meet again. He is just like Khan. But Khan is not a villain. Khan is the antagonist, and he is doing a righteous thing for his people. Therefore, he is the antagonistic force. I do not look at Khan as a villain. I look at him as an alien species, or a genetically enhanced species. I believe he's a genetically enhanced human, but trying to save his people. So I can understand, I can relate and have empathy for his position. But he is against the Federation, which makes him an antagonistic. I don't look at Khan as a villain. Like Gaston, villain. Gaston! You know that guy? But when I was younger, I ate 12 eggs. Now, as I'm older, I... Yes, we can meet tomorrow, my friend. Absolutely. Absolutely. Have a good night, SB. What is Gaston's song again? I forget his song. What is it? Gaston's song. Isn't it just Gaston, right? Gaston. Who does she think she is? That girl has tangled with the wrong man. No one says no to Gaston. Hey, yeah, darn right. Dismissed, rejected, publicly humiliated. Why? It's more than I can bear. More beer! What for? Nothing helps. I'm disgraced. Who, you never, Gaston. You've got to pull yourself together. Gosh, it disturbs me to see you, Gaston. Looking so down in the dumps. Every guy here loved to be you, Gaston, even when taking your lumps. No one's as strong as Gaston. Okay. Sorry. I love every song in Beauty and the Beast. I agree. Almost 8 p.m., Thomas. Is it really? No, it's 4 o'clock over here. Oh, wait, you live in... Okay. Time in you... Oh, wait, time in the UK. I get it. I'm rewatching the Penguin series to work out how they kept me rooting for... Well, yeah, that's a great example of having empathy for terrible flaws. Like, the Penguin is a villain. He is evil. And I think they do a really good job with that because we have empathy for him for what he's dealing with. He's always the underdog. And this is the crazy part. He's capable. He's very smart. He's in the comics, he's super smart. But he's smart, he's capable, he has interesting charisma, he manipulates people very good. The Penguin series. Yes, the Penguin series. Love to USB. And every last inch of him's covered in hair. And every last inch of me's covered in hair. No one strong like Gaston. No. Right. Make a great impression. That's right. Always make a great impression. Can the protagonist be his own? Yes, a protagonist can absolutely be fighting against himself, internally or externally. Meaning, I think Bad Rabbit is an example of that because the main protagonist is Jason. I forget the actor's name, but that character is actively failing himself. His choices lead to worse situations. Fear and Loathing in Las Vegas is another example of that. The protagonist of Natural Born Killers is technically a bad person because they are the villain. They're killing people, but they are the protagonists of that narrative. And they themselves are also causing their own antagonistic fall. Why? Because of their choices, they keep killing people. You talking about Thomas Rowe? I am covered in hair from head to toe. Of course, his decisions or lacks of decisions and reasons for we can be our worst enemy. Yeah, for sure. And the internal truth too. Like if they're going through psychosis and stuff like that. Speaking of villains, Galadriel is about to go on. Oh, Papa Oak in the upcoming 3rd season. I can't wait to not know anything about that season. Phew! You lucked out. It's in the song he was singing. My notes so far line up with that. Penguin is highly capable, cunning, constant, underdog, ugly, and often insulted or overlooked. Yeah, and that makes us who sometimes feel like underdogs, sometimes feel constantly insulted or not accepted or felt devalued, but we know we're capable and stuff like that. So there are things that we have empathy for. Disability, he gained through poverty. Did he gain through? Why? Yeah, no, didn't he have polio's? Yeah. Lost you. Are we back? It says here on my live that I'm back. Do your neighbors like your singing? I don't know if they do or not, but I do know that the neighbors were in the music industry, or at least they were involved with somebody that was in the music industry. So, you know. Hit that like button and bloop the beard. Did we finish the poll? I don't think we did. The poll. Oh, here we go. Respecting a reader intelligence. We have 13 votes. Readers intelligence. Fair. It's always good to write vague but informative. If you don't write vague but informative, I recommend doing it. There's a show called Sugar. I don't know if you've watched it. I think they're on season 2. They might be on season 3. I forget. They do a great job at vague but informative. They're always adding a little bit more information about this like other element of the character John Sugar. And it creates questions but answers enough and then continues to do it. It creates intrigue and mystery. Not that it is a noir kind of film, television show, but not that it has to be noir or mystery or crime. Vague but informative just means you give just enough information for readers to understand the context of what's going on, but not enough where they don't have questions. Anyway, delivering on the promise, you always have to do that, but creating emotional truth is the winner today for 38%. Not bad. we got here? Do. Oh, bow, 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 bow. What's that one song? There's something sweet and something. What is it? There's something sweet and almost kind. But he was mean and he was coarse and unrefined. And now he's dear and so unsure. I wonder why I didn't see it there before. She glanced this way. I thought I saw. And when we touched, she didn't shudder at my paw. No, it can't be. I'll just ignore. But then she's never looked at me that way before. I love those songs. They're so good. Shining, shimmering, splendid. Tell me, princess, now when did you last let your heart decide? What is it? I can open your eyes, take you wonder by wonder, over, sideways, and under, on a magic carpet ride. A whole new world, a new fantastic point of view. No one to tell us no, or where to go, or say we're only dreaming. A whole new world, a dazzling place I never knew. Okay. It was an excellent movie. Cartoon and live action. The cartoon is fantastic. The cartoon. One of my favorite songs, that whole thing, is probably Be Our Guest. That's a great song. The Be Our Guest, yeah. Be our guest. Be our guest. Put our service to the test. Tie your napkin round your neck, Sherry, and we provide the rest. Soup de jour, hot hors d'oeuvres. Why, we only live to serve. Try the gray stuff, it's delicious. Don't believe me? Ask the dishes. They can sing, they can dance. After all, miss, this is Friends, and our dinner here is never second best. Go on and unfold your menu. Take a glance and then you'll be our guest. Be our guest. Be our guest. How about Electric Eye by Priest? Oh my God. I don't remember the words. Electric Eye from Priest. Does he scream the whole thing? Does he go, up here in space, I'm looking down on you, my laser trace, everything you do. Is that how he sings? I forget. Well, I know Turbo. I'm your turbo lover. I forget. I don't really sing Priest very well. Is it more? Up here in space. What is it? Up here in space. I have to hear this song real quick. Up here in space. Let's see. I gotta listen to this, and then we gotta go. And then we gotta go. Let's see if I can make sense of this. As soon as I hear it, though, I'll remember it. Let's see. Here it comes. And then we gotta. Oh, this song, yeah. That's it. Yeah, he just sings it. He goes, up here in space, I'm looking down on you, my laser trace, everything you do. Yeah. I used to sing Rocky Horror all the time. All the time. It's the time warp. Let's do the time warp again. You gotta put your left foot in. All right, everybody. I had fun today. This was exciting. We went way over. I'm glad I got to do those examples. That's the kind of stuff I like doing on the weekends, is showing you and giving you real-time examples. I hope you had fun. I hope you learned something from this analysis. I definitely enjoy doing them. And if they're helping you, I will continue to do the analyses. But with that said, I think it's time to say goodnight. To everyone out there, absolutely good night and so much love. I'll see you tomorrow. Yeah. I'm Thomas J. Bellezza, and as always, keep developing the right mindset. Yes. Boom.